The next question says, I feel like the max NL movement, the density work, is always junk volume. The reason I say this is because by the time I'm getting to it, I'm already heavily fatigued from 5 sets of deadlifts followed by benching. And then I have to do front squats or do tempo squats. The weights that I use on this are extremely light, and I feel like it's not achieving anything. I understand my work capacity needs improvement, and I'm sure this helps with that, but I feel like I would be better off doing something else. Can you explain the reasoning for it? Sure. The reasoning, first of all, I'd like to disagree with you on the notion that it's junk volume. The requirement for the density work is that you select a weight to use for it. And the weights that are selected are high enough intensity that you'll get a training effect for it. Typically, we're in the 8 to 12 rep max range. So we're in the middle 70%, maybe low 70% at the lowest, and then up around high 70s at the highest. Unless you're really rep dominant, we're not getting quite to 80%, but somewhere in the 70% range. And that's not going to be junk volume. It's going to be in the 70% range of your max for the lift that we're participating in. So let's say we're doing density work for front squats. That's what you're going to get. It's going to be in that range for your front squat. And from there, it's do as many reps as you can within the allotted time. It's not going to be junk volume because the intensity is high enough to elicit the training effect that we're trying to get. Now, what training effect is that? Well, from the intensity side of things, we're trying to get a hypertrophic effect. So we want the intensity rather, to be high enough to stimulate hypertrophy. And I don't think there's any sort of debating that. On the other end, we also want a training effect of improving your work capacity, your specific work capacity, your ability to tolerate work and recover from it, and your ability to do that between sets. So your ability to recover between sets, cardiovascularly, neurologically. So by training in this way, it's going to allow you to take shorter and shorter rest periods for the heavier work. That's going to allow us to do more volume and build up your total over the long term. This slot that this density work occupies is a supplemental slot. So you won't have density work in that slot every week forever. It will be for a specific block of training. When we get away from density work, you'll notice that the supplemental slots are still trained at in generally the same intensity zone. The volume is done differently, and the focus is more on hypertrophy and not so much on work capacity. Basically, at that point, we've developed work capacity as much as we're going to in this cycle, and the focus shifts towards something else. So it's just for this one particular stage of training, and it's this one particular slot that's helping you to develop your work capacity over the entire organism. And then later on, we're going to utilize that to develop some more specific and more, it's easier to see the use and the utility of those protocols that we're going to be doing in future blocks. But they will be more effective because you've done the density work up front. It's certainly not junk volume. It's going to deliver the training effect that we're looking for. As far as would you be better off doing something else, I don't think you would in the long term. And if we were to sub out something else right now, since it's a supplemental slot, it's still going to be volume work and generally the same intensity zone. The way that it's conducted is going to be a bit different, and it's going to take you a lot longer to complete. So, there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs to consider. And for my analysis and the way that I'm looking at this, I think the trade-offs are pretty clearly in favor of doing it the way that it's written. If you disagree or you'd like to have more discussion on this, please let me know. I'd be happy to do so.